Restart India presents Let's Talk Business, a talk show curated and presented by Restart India, an initiative started by Muthoot Fincorp Limited in partnership with Inc. Restart India came into being during the initial days of the lockdown with an aim to address the concerns of small businesses. One of the ways we connect with our community of small businesses is through our live events. At Restart India, while we are running on-ground campaigns to support and restart micro and nano businesses, the talk shows and live events are aimed to create a community wherein the advice from one entrepreneur or mentor can help other startups learn, share views, and grow. Our live events also create awareness to enable the community to come together and support small and local businesses. In this new edition of live events, we call Let's Talk Business. It is a conversation between entrepreneurs who run small businesses. We want to hear from them on how they ideated, set up their business, the challenges they faced, and how they have come to be where they are now.
Restart India.
Hi everyone, good evening. I'm Shraddha Narayanan, Program Manager for Restart India. Welcome to Let's Talk Business. From the beginning of this year, 2021, we have been running these live events in themes. And for the past two events, our theme has been digitization. Being online has somehow become a common word, right? With all our Zoom meetings we have. God forbid there is a power outage in the middle of a meeting, touch wood. The 2 to 3 minutes you're waiting to get back online makes you realize how dependent you are actually on being online. Everything is available on the digital space, be it electronics, groceries, even services like beauty parlors and getting your car vacuumed can actually be just done online, right? And they come and do the service for you. The entire dynamics of the world of business has changed. Somehow I find that online to offline is the trend which is functioning nowadays. People set up their businesses online first to sell either their products or services. And then they decide, they see whether it's working or not, and then they decide whether they need to have a physical space or not. And during the pandemic, which we just witnessed, the model has become even more evident. Even the corner street vendors, right, are adapting to this new way of doing business. I mean, I wake up in the morning and I have the Raitu Bazaar, which comes to my community. A list is already on my WhatsApp. Bhindi, carrots, brinjals, this is the cost. You want it, call me, I will deliver it, or you can come down and take it. So I think this is a good segue into today's topic of discussion. In the past 2 months, we have spoken about digitization for small businesses, their social media strategy. And today we would like to finish off this theme with a good overview of what it is like to be an online business. And for this, we will get a perspective from two wonderful panelists who are with me today. Let me not waste any time and introduce them to you. Our first panelist is Ridhima Arora, founder, conscious capitalist at Namya Foods. She's a health enthusiast, a trained yoga instructor, and a practicing nutritionist. Prior to setting up her own venture, she has worked for about 5 years in branding and marketing in the tech space. She is an electronics and communication engineer by degree and a marketeer by heart. Welcome, Ridhima. It's really nice to have you on board.
Thank you so much for calling me. Thank you so much. So it was a wonderful introduction for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Ridhima. Our next panelist is Harish Venkatesh, founder and creative director at Frozen Iris. He's in and out and creative person with an eye to perfection. He loves providing creative solutions through design, photography, trading customer happiness for uniquely crafted products. He has created a diverse portfolio over the years, from print design to portfolio shoots by working with clients across sectors. He's a mentor, a design mentor at TEDx Chennai, and has been a part of our Restart India family from the beginning and has worked very closely with us. Thanks, Harish. It's so glad that you're part of this Restart India initiative. So how are you both doing today?
extremely
Thank you,
exciting
Shraddha.
time, I'd say.
Great. So we see it's a casual conversation, right? So let's just get right into it. Our show is divided into 5 segments, and the first segment is called the what, when, why factor. We feel this kind of, in short, will be the rationale behind every business, what every business does. Since these are the foundation and building blocks which decide from the small scale to the large scale the success of any enterprise. And we hope with your answers, anyone who's watching can pick up some tidbits and some takeaways. So, Harish, shall we begin with you?
Yeah, please, for sure.
Great. So, Airtel, Vistara, Muthoot, Ministry of Defense, the list goes on. What did it take for Frozen Islands to freeze so many big clients?
So, I think, as you said, since you started with what, why, and when, I think it started with the why. Everything starts with the why, right? So, why you want to do whatever you want to do. And all of these are mediums of the why. When we kind of started with Frozen Iris as a freelance practice back in the college days, all that you had was, I want to keep learning more about design, and I want to see what is the value that design can actually add to a business or to a team or actually to a society, right? And these are some opportunities that came on the way where design. Like design is never absolute. Today it'll be something, tomorrow it'll change. And there's, a concept of best design doesn't exist. So all of these clients actually acted as partners who we kind of co-created something with to create some kind of a value for them, for us, and for the end users. That is all of this. Of course, yeah. So irrespective of the scale, it depends on how much someone who wants to incorporate design as a framework in problem solving for whatever they are into. That is how all of this happens. Yeah.
Nice. That's great. Ridhima, I'll just come over to you. So you have Namia Foods has loads of varieties which you have listed, right? Heart tea, liver cleanse tea, PCOS tea, thyroid care tea. So before we get into more details questions, I want to ask when and why did it all start?
It's a slightly more longer journey that way, which I probably haven't spoken at all places. But I had a lot of interest in health foods from the beginning, also because I was a very fat kid. I lost about 30 kgs that time. And my sensitivity towards health foods started going up when I was still a teenage. But we conventional 90s kids, and we never thought that this could become like a mainstream career because I had done a BTech and an MBA, and an obvious path was doing something in management and getting that kind of salaries and things like that. How we conventionally think about life in general. Safe. But back in 2018, my father was diagnosed with liver cirrhosis, and that was the first time. I had visited a lot of hospitals. I was staying in the hospital. I saw a whole lot of vulnerabilities around. I mean, people dying every day. Not a very good experience, but what I understood out of that experience was that there were these sensitivities that I understood about health foods. Also, I came from an Ayurvedic background. My father's been into Ayurvedic herbs for about 80 years. It's a family business that started in 1937. But there was no mention of the importance of foods in preventing and curing diseases. When you go to a hospital, it's a lot about having those kind of allopathic medicines, having a whole lot of protein powders. So the idea was that there was this market gap, where a real health food category could fit in, where some brand, which was probably, helping prevent diseases could fit in, So today, if you look at the market, it's a whole lot about, healthy cookies, healthy snacks, which are actually not healthy because there's a whole lot of preservatives in it, right?
Healthy chips also.
Sorry?
Healthy chips, healthy fried
chips.
stuff.
That's the biggest fad I've ever heard about, because it's low fat, it's low sugar, but then it has sucralose, fructose, and corn syrups and things like that. So I thought, we had that kind of Ayurvedic knowledge, so why not, blend that Ayurvedic knowledge with my branding experience. And then anyway, I had a lot of interest in health foods, so that's how in 2019 we made Namia Foods.
Excellent, right? So, I mean, both of you have actually found out the niche gap where you can fit in and you can have your creative fields really get in and start your own brands. It's really nice. Harish, you, like we spoke about, right? You have a wide client spectrum. What are the strategies that you use in your business approach? Can you shed light on that?
Yeah, I think of course the strategy will vary from project to project, client to client. But I think the fundamental to everything is uh, you need to understand where the client comes from. You need to understand what's the real problem that they are facing, and you need to be very upfront on what you can do and what you cannot do for them. I think that acts as the fundamental. So even if you see at Frozen Air, we say helping businesses through first principles in design, right? Design being a very early nascent market in India, not a lot of individuals or companies have a actual or true understanding of what design can be, right? We still have a very visual limitations of what design is, right? But design is more of a framework than an outcome, right? So there is a statement of definition of design. Design is to design a design to design it. So design, is a very abused word in today's market. So the strategy is first about understanding the client thoroughly, uh, and helping them understand what exactly is the problem that they are facing, right? So that is something that acted as the fundamental for us, irrespective of whomsoever we are working with. And that definitely proved out to be a big time success.
So many times, even these business owners themselves don't know what design will do well for their brand, right? So is
Exactly.
that your discovery process is much longer because you as a design person will give them something, but how do you strategize when they're not convinced with your what you have in
So that,
mind?
very interesting question. So something very funny that has happened during my freelance days is this first principles in design has to be used very carefully. Okay. People would come with a preconceived notion that, hey, I want a video to be made because that company did a video, it worked for them. Can you also do a video for me? Or can you also do a website for me? Right? So I read this quote somewhere. Knowledge is about asking question, intelligence is about asking right question. Something like this. Okay. Uh,
Okay.
so now you go back asking them that, boss, why do you need a website? And then they'll
Hmm.
say that we are not selling enough. Right? Then you ask, why are you not selling enough? And then their answer is, I don't know. And then you go and ask, can I participate in your sales process? And then I actually went and participated in the sales process. And then I realized that what these people are selling is very different from what the company is actually selling. Right. So there was a
Okay.
gap in the understanding of, the salespeople of the company. And then I said that, can I actually help you with the presentation design? Right. And then the first project that I did was I helped them with the presentation design, which was a 1-2 day of work. Might, this is a website which would have been a 1.5 months of work, right? Of course, the budget, everything will change. And as a freelancer at that point in time, on one side, I was fighting my belief that, hey, you are losing out on money. But on the other side, you are actually trying to do the right thing. And then I told them that, boss, you want a website, we will help you with a website. But first, let us try this to see if this actually works for you. And then luckily, what happened within 2 months, they were able to close more deals. Their conversion ratio increased, right? So then the challenge is about asking the right question, helping people figure out what their problem is, right? But inside, I
Nice.
was crying that, boss, I lost out on so much of money, right? But that is what the power of design is. And then this acting as a starting point, then most of the company starts reflecting on their internal culture, service design, what they are
Correct.
doing, what is the pain point of their customer, blah blah blah. But yeah, so this is one of the key strategies that not only applicable to design as a business, but to most, as
Yes.
what Ridhima is also saying. You need to understand the key pain point of what my target group is going through.
Essentially, ask the right questions.
Yeah, ask the right questions.
I hope I am going to ask right questions to both of you now. Ridhima, I'm very, very excited because the number of products you have, right? Your variety of products is awesome. In an earlier conversation with you, I remember you've said that you started off with just 4 products. Now you have a whole list and a whole variety. So when did you decide that you want to increase the number of SKUs, and why did you make that decision?
I think most of the times it's the customer who's guiding you. So when I started off, and for everyone who's listening me today, this is an absolute truth. I just wanted to, cover this market. The idea was that, nobody should end up in a hospital and face those vulnerabilities that we had to, right? So that was just that one idea, and I just got into it. There was not a lot of planning that time. But yes, I knew about those little herbs like BP, thyroid, cholesterol are the biggest issues the country is facing today, and these become, heart blockages. These become, they turn out to be serious issues later on, right? But they start with these little things, maybe a fatty liver, maybe a BP or a cholesterol, right? So I started off with simple green tea, Kashmiri kawa, that is, very very. It's a very healthy tea. It's a very functional tea, but it's only sold in Kashmir, right? If you move out of Kashmir, Kashmiri kawa are these pre-mixes with a lot of sugar, but you don't get the original fresh herb-based Kashmiri kawa. And then I started with hot tea, which is primarily for BP, then cholesterol, then diabetes, right? And then, after getting a lot of good responses for hot tea, we understood that there were so many other issues that people were suffering through. So say, I knew personally, I come from a family setup like that. I understood that, harad is very good for liver. Paneer dodi is going to be excellent for diabetes, right? But when we went out in the market, we saw that, there were so many people who had this issue. Like in India, 1 out of 12 people are actually diabetic or pre-diabetic. So people came up and said, "Do you have this? Do you have that?" Right now, like I'm working for a tea which is good for kidneys. Now, I didn't think of it. There are people who come back to you and they ask for it. So I think some of it, obviously came from my brainchild. Some of it came from the customers. But I think once your intent is right, a lot of it is driven by the customer. And I think I have learned it through this 1.5 years of my journey, that it's ultimately the customer who's going to make you or break you. So listen to them properly, because a whole lot of good feedback comes out of it. Believe me, I used to change my names, sit on the customer calling team, and would call people just to understand that what is happening with the product, what exactly is really happening out there, because I was very curious and I wanted to know, how the product is responding, how the product is being received. So I think that really helped me a lot in terms of how do I market, who do I connect to, who's my target audience, and ultimately, what they're really asking for.
Nice. So I understood why you had so many SKUs, but has there been any point where maybe you felt that this would work and you had to withdraw it? Is that also happened, or all the SKUs have been in the market and done really well based on your primary research?
That's a very good question, actually. So we did something. So, I am particularly not very happy with all the milk powders that are in the market right now. They claim a lot about, height and muscle strength and bone strength. But ultimately, it's a whole lot about preservatives and sucralose, fructose. And I mean, the repercussions can be really bad. And I see kids going out and having these drinks and saying this is like this staple. And moms also give them very happily, thinking that it's going to really really strengthen their body. So we did something in almond powder. So it was a blend of almond, pistachio, and poppy seeds. Very healthy, very natural, no preservatives. You could mix it in milk and have it, and ultimately it was very tasty also. But we could not set the costing according to India. So it was MRP'd at 820, right? So 200 grams for 810. Now, for somebody like me who's going to go out and, buy pistachio in bulk, which is probably at around 3,000, 4,000 rupees per kg, I can't lower down the cost because the ingredients are going to be like really healthy and pure. Right, so we couldn't really do it in the market on a very large scale. We do it on a very small scale, but yeah, there will be always some products that you will not be able to do it on that kind of scale. Also, because I think India is still going there, it's not ready for that kind of a setup. So it's very strange. People spend on a pizza and maybe buy it for $1,000 for the family on a weekend. But when it comes to healthy drinks, healthy food, there is, I think, we have a great future, I feel. But at the same time, I think we're still going there. We're not really on that.
Great. I think this segment has been very interesting.
I really like the
at
line
least-
when
Yeah,
Ridhima said that customers are actually guiding me. I really like that line. Makes a lot
Yeah.
of sense. Yeah.
So at least from both of you, this segment I've learned first, listen to the market, listen to the customers and ask intelligent questions. And I guess don't be scared of withdrawing certain things or changing your strategy. Both you, Ridhima and Harish have done that. You went for a certain thing, but you completely changed it. That's really nice to know. I think this is some learning which all entrepreneurs will have.
And
All
I
right.
think it's part of the process. It's just part of the process. So I think you have to be just open to receiving whatever is coming to you. It's fine. So I think everybody makes a mistake. We've also done a whole lot of it, but it's part of the process. I think everybody who's wanting to become an entrepreneur, I think it's just part of the day. It's fine. So
Nice, very, very well put, Ridhima. We're going to move on to the next segment. It's called Snippets. Here, I want to just dive into your journey as an entrepreneur, keeping in mind the theme is the online business and online business being a very different ball game. You've shared a little bit of your experiences already. I'm sure there have been many life lessons for you. Some have been frustrating, some funny, some path changing. Couple of them you've shared. I'm not sure, but I'm asking, have you had one of those days where you say, oh goodness, only an online business can have these problems? I want to start with you, Ridhima. Can you recall an incident where an online model, which you have, really pinched you and how you addressed it?
So I think everybody, who does a D2C business or an online brand, especially a product-based brand, would relate to this, that there are a lot of returns and the logistics costs are really high. So like our operations, our manufacturing facilities in Jammu and Kashmir, so which means that, we incur extra costs, from anybody who's probably, functioning from a Delhi or a Bombay or maybe from some metro or a middle location. So I think logistics cost has been definitely a very, very big challenge for us. And returns, yes. I think, while we understand that the customer does not get a chance to physically, look and feel the product because we are still not in any brick and mortar, we are not in the retail outlets. And we understand that the customer really wants to look at the product because that's the customer journey been like, till now. But from the back end, from the receiving end, we've really faced a lot of major issues in terms of returns. There was this one time, I think back in May, when April was a lockdown, and in May we had just begun our operations back again. There was a whole lot of costing that was going in giving out salaries. The manufacturing plant had shut down for 1 month, and there was a whole lot of fixed costs that had come up over our heads that time. And then when we started off the business, there were a lot of returns that time that were happening. Different reasons, different logistical issues also, because every system of the country was just settling into that mode of functioning back again. And I think that was that one time when I realized that maybe we need to rethink our strategy. Maybe we need to just go back and think about whether the online way is the right way for us or not. But I think there is always a way to rethink and redo things. Like we stopped CODs for some time on the website and on the other platforms. A couple of other brands were also doing that. Also, keeping in mind the safety norms and everything. We also set up a warehouse in Bombay, Hyderabad, and Delhi. It was a shared warehousing that we still have, right? So, I think we are in the best possible ecosystem as we speak. There are so many, things that you can outsource for your brand. There's so many logistical help that you can get these days. So I think we figured out our way. We've reduced the logistics cost. We've reduced the return ratio costing that we had. So I think you figured that out, I think.
Great, yeah, nice, really nice to know that. I'm sure lovely insights there. Havish, you are in a sector where you provide services to your clients, right? You get your clients online in a way. So have you ever felt stuck when it came to marketing your product, like Frozen Iris, online?
Oh yeah, definitely. Before that, Ridhima, fantastic journey. Very interesting. Very interesting, addictive. Very nice. Yeah. Shraddha, back to your question. Yeah. So with respect to being a, so in our case, unlike being a D2C brand like what Ridhima is doing, for us digital is an identity, right?
Yeah.
While operations is more person to person, digital is the core identity. So if you are online, you are alive. If you are not online, you are dead, right? As simple as that. If I don't see your name, if I don't see the brand for 10 days, 20 days, you are literally dead. And that too, in our case, if you actually see, we are a B2B brand, right? So you need to be in the eyes of people who take care of businesses on a consistent basis, right? Also, design as a sector, it is not actually, it doesn't have a consistent demand, right? So the unique challenge that you have is you need to be consistently in the mind of people and want to be popped up first when there is a requirement. The requirement is a possibility that the business will have based on their business journey, right? So this is something that is extremely difficult to plan, right? Because the only way you can do it is be online, consistent. That's about it. Consistent in messaging, consistent in your branding, and consistent in your timing or frequency, whatever it is. So that is the unique challenge, right? And these days, with so much of personal branding, social branding, all of this happening, the next challenge is how do you pop out in that market or how do you stand out in that market? That comes as a next challenge, right? Because now options are so available very easily everywhere, right? So how do you actually differentiate yourself in that market? That is all about communication and also a lot of self-reflection in you understanding what exactly you are good at and what you actually want to do. And as I said, being upfront about, hey, these are all the things I know, these are all the things I don't know, right? So yeah, these are the unique challenges in our case.
So Frozen Iris made a website first, or Frozen Iris was on social media first?
The Frozen Iris started more from a P2B, P2P, person to person, more as a word of
Okay.
mouth business, right?
So
And then it
offline
turned as a
actually.
digital identity. Yeah. It actually started off. Till date, we don't
Okay.
give. Till date, we don't give our website as a reference because our
Okay.
our website
Yeah.
is something that we are not proud of. And the website, of course, being a very time-taking activity, we haven't got the time to actually do it. Primarily because projects are running most of the time, so we didn't get that time. Till date, our Instagram or social media acts as a portfolio, right? So that's how it is, and that's why I said you being online is kind of adds to your credibility more than. So one effect that I actually saw very recently was it was an experiment that we made a couple of months back. We made sure that we had a post running in our channel almost on an everyday basis, right? And I can immediately see that perception change among the first circle and second circle of people that they're having towards the brand, right? Even though we are talking about the same thing, maybe in a different fashion, but the perception definitely increases. Oh, you are doing so much, right? So the consistency in communication and frequency is extremely important if you are a digital business or if you have a digital identity as your primary thing.
Nice. So essentially, you do not give Frozen Iris website as your brand
No.
identity, but the websites you created for other clients as
Yeah,
references.
exactly. Yeah.
For
I
nice.
think
I
that's a
mean,
privilege that we have at this point.
yeah, I think it was very nice. I mean, B2C, B2B, both online. It was really we covered all aspects of online business. Great. Okay. Now we are on to our third segment. It is called Gyan Time. So we need a little bit of Ridhima Gyan and little bit of Harish Gyan. What does it take, to be premium and a cut above, and not just another product or a service-based online business? So we are looking at a little more deeper insights from both of you. Ridhima, you're a motivational speaker, a nutritionist. Like you said, you saw a gap in the market and you started a brand. But what should an entrepreneur in such a social place do to keep his or her brand alive? Is diversifying always a good option? or is focus better? Should that person focus only on one kind of service, one kind of product, one kind of channel? I know there may be no right or wrong answer, but we really want to have your Gyan, your perspective, maybe something you can relate to your own experience.
Right, right. So I'm someone who likes to do one thing and then do it properly. And I think more than the answer to this question, I think it's a lot about the owners, the founders, or the caretaker of the brand's ability, or how do they want to go forward with it. I think it's a lot of, I think for SMEs and for people like us who are still on a very small scale, I think a brand is also a lot of reflection of who you are, right? And I personally feel that you should do, you could expand, you could start maybe 3 businesses altogether, or only focus on one business for all your life. It is a lot dependent on what you think is right for you. Like, I can give my example for somebody like me. I have been very passionate on health foods, and if you tell me to today diversify into healthy snacks, no, that's something I don't connect with too much. So
Okay.
because there
Yeah.
are already so many people who are doing it, it's not something that really touches my heart, or it's not something that really connects with me at any level. So I think you should do it only when you think that you're going to give it proper time, you will give it proper justified emotion and strategy and hard work and everything else. I'm a very firm believer that even if you do this little, you should do it properly. Even if you do this big, you should do it properly. So I think it's about doing the right thing the right way, then really diversifying, or really doing a single one thing.
Nice. Harish, you have something to add to that before I ask you?
I think the question is very contextual. Ridhima covered most points of it. I'll go back to the first sentence that she said, listen to your customers. That's where the answer lies. That's about it. Yeah.
Nice. Thanks, Harish. So, Harish, with you, right, you create websites, you create business plans. When you talk to a client, you are seeing their business plans, their long-term future, what their vision is, maybe a 3-5 year journey. And then you're trying to make that into an identity and putting it, what they will project to their customers, right, in a digital space as a website. So keeping this in mind, do you have like 3 or 4 takeaways which our viewers can take, or what they should look for when they're starting a new business, in the online space?
Got it. So I think I'll start by saying, what is a website, right? A website is made up of a couple of layers. Number one, the strategy for the website. What is the objective? Number two, the website will have some amount of content. Number three, it will have some visuals associated to it, right? So the visuals connect to the visual aspect of branding, right? The content is the king. Whenever you start with the web design process, you start with the content, right? And the content is actually a reflection of what the company is, right? So when we say we do a lot of websites, but what we are actually, we are a brand design studio, right? Because for most of the companies, India has um, around 95 million MSMEs, okay, which is kind of the population of UK. And MSMEs are the huge sector that is kind of digitizing themselves at this point in time, right?
Yeah.
So when a lot of people come to us saying that, boss, help me with a website, the conversation goes back to understanding what they are as a business. Website acts as a starting point, even for the clients to actually take time and look at what we are. Because if internally a lot of things are wrong, or if it's not working out, or if you don't have clarity, then the website would be a reflection of it. And a website is your digital identity of your brand, right? So the identity is what you are. So most of the time when we start with the website, we go back to the strategy part of it. We go back to the whiteboard. We go back and ask, why did you start this, right? So there are two ways. So now there are a lot of startups coming in, right? So one, you can solve an existing problem in an existing way, or you can solve an existing problem in a new way, right? So that is what stands as a difference between a business and say an innovation, right? And there is completely nothing wrong to do a business. Some kind of apprehensiveness that I face with people is, they are kind of not open to come and say that, hey, I'm running a business just to get a market share in this way. Okay, I'm solving the same problem in the same way, but what I'm looking for is just a market share, right? At the end of the day, what people need to look at is, boss, I am doing the same thing, but I still have some kind of a distinctiveness or uniqueness, or I still add a different kind of a value in my service, right? It can be your customer experience, it can be a small difference in your packaging, or it can be a small delight, or it can really be, some kind of a difference in your product, whatever it might be. But just like, going back to chemistry, no two atoms can be the same. Similarly, no two businesses can be the same, right? So the challenges in doing a website is helping people understand what exactly your true difference is, right? So that is the basic uh, takeaway that I would like to give from this conversation is, start looking at why you are doing, what you are doing, how you are doing, right? So when you put yourself in a map with your competitors, you can easily see what am I doing additionally or what am I not doing. That is also a difference, right? So just like how they say being an introvert is also a brand, right? You don't need to be an extrovert to create. Being an introvert itself is a brand, right? So that is what I feel the upcoming or the new digital businesses, they should start with why. What Simon Sinek has become an ambassador for. Start with your why, know your why, take your time to reflect on it and come with an answer.
Nice. Great. I think both of you have really touched upon what most entrepreneurs find as their pain point. Many times they just have an idea and they rush to execute it, right? But it's always good to, like Harish mentioned, get on the drawing board, really describe yourself, and then your journey ahead becomes really easy. Great. Thank you so much, Ridhima and Harish, for the great gyan which you have given. We have now a segment called as Let's Watch This One. We showcase the story of a small local business which may have done something novel. Little acts of innovation can be a source of inspiration to other small businesses, right? So let's watch one of the stories. His name is Edward. He's one of Restart India champions. So if we could just pull the video up, we'll watch it now. So Edward is our Restart India champion. When the pandemic was happening, he was moving around was an issue, right? But he took the risk of home delivering the goods by himself by taking orders online like WhatsApp, messages, and then collecting digital payments. At that time, what may have looked at an additional effort ensured that he retained his customers and continued to meet their needs. So I think this is a very inspiring story and it has a takeaway, because with an online business, its logistic structure also needs to be sound, right? Like Ridhima just pointed out earlier. It would be really great if both of you could give your inputs along with an answer to this question. Ridhima, your business is a year old. You're already in 16 platforms, right? How did you decide which platforms to be listed on first? And how are you managing the extent of logistics? Because your products reach outside India as well. So how does this all come together?
So I think for everyone actually who's wanting to start with a new business, I think it'll help them. While you are starting off, and especially people like us who are into manufacturing, there's a lot of capital that stands at the beginning of the business, right? So there's a lot of capital that gets stuck, right? Your cash flows literally dry so quickly. I remember, back in February 2020, when we had just begun, the factory was just done, right? So that time there was a whole lot of investment that had happened, and we were literally facing a lot of challenges with the cash flow. We are still bootstrapped, so which meant everything went out of our pockets. So I think the whole idea was that we wanted to maintain cash flows, that could come from different sources, could come from any place because we were hungry for cash that time. And then obviously the other part was the branding element. So we wanted to associate ourselves with the right kind of platforms. So initially, I think we went on Amazon, and the idea was that we wanted to really go on the platform where most of the products like ours sell, right? While you don't get to brand your products very well on a marketplace like that, where there are so many sellers, there are so many products, but again, you get sales out of it. So we wanted to sustain our cash flow, so we went on to Amazon. At the same time, we started our website because I think we don't have a physical store, so that was the only place where somebody could just come in and have a proper look and feel of who we are, what we belong to, what are our values, what are our ethics, how our products look. There's a certain way a customer perceives your brand, your product, once he enters your platform, your website, right? So we wanted to create that. So that's what we started with. And then the other 16 platforms that we went on to was mostly from a consumer behavior perspective. If we knew that there is the target audience that we are targeting is going to that platform, we would be present there. So I think that's how it happened. And talking about the logistics and how we went outside India, again, the customer actually helped us. We actually started getting a whole lot of messages on Instagram, on WhatsApp, that why are you not available in US? Why are you not available in UAE? So we figured out, we inquired, we started building our logistics also that way. Initially, it was a whole lot of, doing jugars of sending small packages in the bulk shipment that was already going. But I think we learned in the process, we understood in the process, and now we have a proper system in place in terms of how we send out our shipments outside India.
That's really great. And I mean, even a small business owner understands the importance of logistics, right? And you've really put it together really well. Harish, while logistics may not be directly relevant to your line of business, you had mentioned earlier that you do connect with people personally or via references to add to your clientele. So give us an overall perspective on why it is important on having these offline connections for may not be just your service-based business, but any business. What is your take on that?
Oh, yeah. It's a very nice question. So what happens is when you talk to someone, say we are in the days of video calls, right? So where we think something very interesting happened was we were having an intern at our studio, and then we were used to seeing, in this rectangular boxes in a certain fashion. When I actually got to meet that person in real, say after 4 months or 5 months, it was a bit weird for me to kind of approach or talk to that person in real, and then it took some time for you to kind of accept that this is that individual, right? I think this is what happens when digital acts as your primary way of communication, because you don't understand that individual thoroughly, right? From the body language to the tone of voice, to the way that someone delivers a message, everything kind of tells you small cues on how someone is going about telling you something, right? Say when I read an email or when you tell me something over a Zoom, there are a lot of layers that's kind of hidden or that's automatically cut out in that in the transaction, right? So I think that is why offline is still offline. I think that tactility offers a different ways that things would be communicated. That's very interesting. Now that all of us are put into a dabba, it's kind of restricting ourselves. Though through the Zoom, I get an access to who you are as an individual by getting inside your room, but still there is a lot of information that's kind of cut. That's a very interesting study, ethnographic study itself, with how our human behavior is changing. So offline will still be extremely important.
Yeah, they say that 60% of communication is non-verbal, right? And that's only so much you can get it, like Harish, you said, from the Zoom ka dabba. So yeah.
Exactly. I didn't know the percentage now.
Yeah. I have a request to all our viewers here. If you have helped a small nano business in your locality to restart, we request you to record a short video of the shop and the owner and post it on social media channels and tag us using these hashtags. Restart India, small business, support local, shop small, local business support. We will feature the best small business restart stories in our future live events. Let's get these videos so that we can encourage other small business owners to also restart. We are in our last segment, which is Ask Me Anything. We have about 15 minutes and we already have a list of questions for both of you. I'm really glad. I think people are really enjoying this. So I think the first question is from Rajdeep Delhi. Ridhima, it's for you. Do you use any tools or apps that help you save time and money while running your online business? Can you suggest a few that help you keep track of records while handling different clients?
Okay. So let me just tell you on record that while we now are building team, there's a whole lot of work that I do myself, and it's not possible unless I have a few tips and tricks there. Like a lot of my social media gets handled by this app called Canva. So we have for accounting initially. I used to use online softwares. There are a whole lot of softwares today like Soho, Reference, and things like that. For our logistics, we got an API integration done, which meant that all my orders would manifest automatically, and I didn't have to do a lot there. So I think for accounting, for our social media, for our logistics, which technically takes most of the time on a day-to-day operational basis. Yes, we've outsourced, and I think it's a very, very, so I personally think that there are so many softwares, there are so many platforms that are open source, that are abundantly available to anyone. You just have to go out and search them and make the best use of them. And I think I personally feel that and I've observed also a lot of people end up paying extra money, extra amount for the services which are actually freely available. So all you have to do is Google up, do your little research, maybe 20 minutes in the night when there's no other work, and make that extra effort and figure out what's going to work for you. Because let me tell you, there's a lot of stuff online which is absolutely free.
That's really nice. And you had already mentioned a few apps, etc.
Yes.
Harish, you want to add some of the tools maybe which you use to the same question which has been asked by Rajdeep?
Yeah, I think if someone is there in a D2C business, I hope they're already using something like Shopify or something like that, where they're managing their sales and customers there only. Or in case if they are not, blindly go and set up an ERP. Sign up for a trial, use it for a month, see if it fits in your workflow. But start using your ERP, because there is a certain limit to which your brain can function, and you cannot do everything. So get an ERP, get started with it. You kind of be super thankful for it.
And let me add up a few things. Like I can tell from my personal experience, I used to do SEO myself. Google gives you SEO tracker. You can figure out keyword traffics that a particular keyword is getting. A lot of Google Analytics is all for free. This is a whole lot of stuff that's free. So our initial version of the website was done on WooCommerce, which is again a template, which is technically basically just a template where you have to copy paste and do things right. So I think making a website, making your social media presence, getting digital presence today is all actually free. All you have to do is, if you're not very aware of it, if you're not very if you're averse to it, all you have to do is take out a little time and just study about it, because it might seem very daunting, but actually it's not. It's not tough at all.
And at the end, it saves you money, which is what every business, when it's starting off, doesn't want to spend, right? Everybody's eyes are on cash flow. And that's a great input from both of you. Harish, we have a question for you from Afreen Malik, Ahmedabad. She's a creative designer. She says, I have not been able to manage things myself as I get a lot of work. I'm thinking of outsourcing some of my work. Should I outsource or should I expand? How can I take this call?
Oh, brilliant. It's a question we are also trying to tackle. So I think some part of the answer is we need to start saying no. and that no is also a clarity that you will have to get on what you are seeking at what point in time, right? You can definitely outsource, provided you are able to do a quality control of what the output is going to be. You can definitely expand, but what you need to see is this spike going to be consistent, or do I have the capacity to make it consistent? Then you can always expand, right? But one scenario that you want to avoid is, today I'm having a spike, I'll expand, then tomorrow if I don't get the spike, how will I do, right? Then you'll again, there will be a huge cash flow crisis, right? So I think this is the answer. But when you're having a spike, you can also make use of that as an opportunity to kind of upsell or price yourself a little higher, because now you have options to choose from, right? So the pricing in the market is the price, is the threshold when people start saying no, right? So use this traffic to probably see where you actually stand, or where your quality stands, or where people, or what people perceive you as, right? And if this spike can be maintained, fantastic, good for you. Yeah, expand.
Very interesting 2 points there, Harish, that even find out where you stand in the market by upselling. That's a very interesting point. So I think Afreen got more than the answer which she was looking for. Ridhima, maybe you could take this question by Kalyani Bhatia. She's a designer. What do you need to get in place in terms of customer support when you set up online business?
Okay. So I think, while initially we had a customer support form, we had WhatsApp, we had an email ID, and we had a customer chat support on the website also. But over a period of time, we've understood that in India, most people are very, very comfortable with customer calling, A. B, they're very comfortable with WhatsApp. So I think irrespective of how many touch points we have today, we barely have a lot of people, who go out and fill up forms for their queries or for their support system. It's still a lot of WhatsApp and calling. While obviously calling means an extra resource for you, but I think a whole lot of people use WhatsApp, and it's very easy for them also to use it, and for you also to reply back to them. So I think for us, a lot of major queries. So we have WhatsApp integrated with the website. So anybody who enters the website can also see a WhatsApp icon and can directly contact us from there, right? And anyway, all our social handles, everywhere that we are present, we have that mentioned. So I think WhatsApp definitely has worked brilliantly for us, and everybody. I think if you're making a website, also I think Harish would agree because he's in the system. The queries that come from WhatsApp integrated on website are very high. So yes, WhatsApp undoubtedly.
You have anything to add, Harish?
Yeah. I have a very interesting point to add. We need to start thinking, why do we need to have a customer support? Okay. With respect to Google, we never asked, is there a customer support for Google? Right? Say, for example, Uber doesn't have a huge customer, or what is it? A caller team kind of sitting and addressing all the queries, right? So this is where you can use, again, the framework of design. Can I create a service where I can automate customer queries, right? Say as simple
Like
as an elaborated FAQ page where I can answer most of your questions, right? Say Uber is a brilliant example. The app handles everything automatically by itself, right? Say Swiggy has an algorithm. I learned from someone that they can go to Swiggy and then say the food that I got was not up to the quality, or it is tampered, or it is bad. Then Swiggy will automatically refund that money back to you, right?
Yeah.
How they apparently do it is they check the overall lifetime value of the customer. If the overall lifetime value crosses a certain threshold, then this 100, 200 I can refund it back to you, right? So what this actually reduces for me as a business is reduces the necessity to put a big fat customer support office, right? So see how you can reduce the dependency on having a physical support. Then of course, as Ridhima mentioned, there are chatbots, intercom, so many things that you can always use to automate conversations.
I'll add a little point to Harish's conversation. So, I also came from a very, very similar thought process as Harish has, and we try to do that. But we figured it out over a period of time that we are a very, very new category. There's a whole lot of category awareness work that we need to do,
Yeah.
and people were agitated. People were like, "Why are you not? Why are you not having a customer calling number?" So initially, we didn't have a customer calling number, but because of the kind of escalations we had, so our website is very, very elaborative that way. There are videos, there are FAQs, there's a whole lot of benefit section separately. There are ingredient benefit section also separately that we've created. But I think as I say, customer is still evolving. They want to understand it right away, and hence we have it. But as Harish rightly said, I think we should move forward in that direction and probably do something about it.
Great. I think we just 4 minutes. I'll just take one or two more questions, which is here. Harish, what are some of the effective, inexpensive ways to drive traffic to your website?
Oh, wow. Effective and inexpensive ways. Paradox.
I'll agree.
See, I'll
Do we have
again go
any?
back to the. No, of course, we have a lot of
There are.
examples. Examples are there. See, what I would. A website. Um, so, when you want people to come to a site, you need to create a fantastic incentive for people to take efforts and come to the website, right? So first, work on that. What exactly is the incentive that my customer has that they need to turn up to the site, right? These days, a lot of people are creating Facebook alternative, but the challenge is you are creating a lifestyle behavior change, right? You create a group on Facebook, it's easy for them to join the group and start chatting. But you create a alternative platform saying come and chat here, it's going to be extremely difficult for them to. So work on the incentive that you want to give people to come to the site and see something. Number one. Number two, see where your customers are, right? Most of our customers would be in some medium of social media, whether LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. There are so many things these days, right? So now what you need to be do consistent in communication, consistent in visual, in telling people, in telling people to migrate to your website for a certain incentive, right? What is the message you want to put out, right? I use the word pain point something back. You need to have a very clear understanding of what is the pain point of the user, right? So when someone talks to me very clearly that boss, I tried doing a website but I failed miserably. I wasted 2 months of my time or I wasted 20,000 rupees on it, right? That is the pain point say my customer has. If we directly put out this message, definitely someone will come and like today. Tomorrow they'll come and comment. Third day they'll share. Fourth day they'll inquire if I can do a website for them. As simple as that. So the deeper understanding you have about your customer, talk specifically that, and then slowly migrate them to whatever the platform is, and ensure you give them enough incentive to retain on the platform. Then tomorrow you will come and ask the next question, which is how do I engage people within the website? So that means you have upgraded yourself from this to that. Yeah.
Thank you guys so much. We have 3-4 more questions. What we'll do is we'll probably get the panelists' perspective and put it up on our website, which you can have your answer with www.restartindia.in. Thank you, Ridhima. Thank you, Harish, for such a meaningful conversation. We had some great insights. And viewers, if you do check out our Facebook page, some snippets from both Harish and Ridhima, 1 minute snippets will be there for you. Please continue to visit our website, www.restartindia.in as well. For exciting updates, stay tuned to our social media pages. This is an initiative which we built for all of you. Thank you so much. Ridhima, Harish, quick one-word gyan for any of our viewers before we close.
I think there will always be a lot of limitations, but it does not matter. Go for it. It's going to come to you. Don't worry.
Harish?
Very good. Patience and persistence. That's about it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We have a conclusion statement by our advisory team, Mr. John Muthoot and Ms. Lakshmi Praturi. We will have a look at that and we'll close for the day. Thank you so much, all of you. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hello everyone. We have wrapped up this short season on digitalization for small businesses. In this day and age when everyone owns or desires to own a smartphone, small businesses have to take the effort to be at the fingertips of their customers. I would like to echo the importance of maintaining a digital identity and footprint in scouting for suppliers, promoting your products, creating brand awareness, and in reaching your customers. Even simple digital tools that we use on a daily basis can be applied strategically to give a boost to your business. We hope you have found our Let's Talk Business series useful. Wish you the very best as you strive to take your small business to greater heights. For us, small is big.
Hi, everyone. It's been great to record these web series for Restart India, where we've been talking a lot about digital marketing. And I hope that a lot of you who are listening to it took a lot from it. It's been heartwarming to see how many comments we've been getting from entrepreneurs as well as youngsters about how they're using these tools, etc. We do believe that the future is hybrid. It's online and offline. It's not a temporary solution. It's not a solution for the few. It's for everyone. It is going to be the way of life. Why not talk to as many people as possible at the same time with an amazing quality? And that's really what's brought by this digital marketing series. And we encourage all of you to adopt digital as a way forward